We had actually taken a Filipino fishing boat out to the Scarborough Shoal in 2016, and even at the time, it was the mouth to that shoal was blocked by a bunch of Chinese Coast Guard and probably maritime militia
I
ships.
think there may have been 2 naval ships out there. They were pretty large.
They were pretty big ships, and we were on this tiny little catamaran. I thought we were going to be boarded, but
well, I was going to say, if you look at satellite views overhead, what you will see throughout the West Philippine Sea and the East Sea of Vietnam, and if you want to use China's terms, the South China Sea, what you will see are these rafts of Chinese maritime militia ships all lashed together like a big wall. And there are groups of them all over the place, and they stand ready to back up the Chinese Coast Guard and assist in the harassment and pushing around and bullying, but they're not out there fishing. That's a big misnomer. They're there as a deputized support for the Chinese Coast Guard.
I remember there being one of those situations where satellite images captured some of these like lashed together ships.
Yeah, we'll put that on screen here.
And then there were more and more of those ships, and then they tried to come up with some excuse like, oh, they were just trying to shelter from a typhoon. It's like they got caught out, basically.
Right.
And then they had to disperse the ships and come up with an excuse.
And for safety, lash like completely together in a way that is absolutely unsafe to do in a typhoon.
Yes, and that concept goes back to having the steel-hulled firepower in this concept of this cabage theory or tactic, where they have enough steel hulls that they can block, surround, harass in any way that they need to.
I want to go back to 2012 because it's relevant to what happened this year. So in 2012, the way the U.S. was involved, as I recall, was that the U.S. said essentially they would broker the deal to get the Chinese ships to leave and the Philippine ships to leave. And after agreeing to everything from 3 sides, the Philippine ships left as agreed, and the Chinese ships did not leave. And despite their immediately violating the agreement, the U.S. did nothing.
I mean, was there something that the U.S. could have done at that point?
Yeah, besides strongly worded statements, there could have been something, right?
Yep. It's worse than that, Matt, because that incident really illustrates the beginnings of the severity of the problems that both the Republic of the Philippines and the United States and other claimants are now having to deal with, all because of that incident that you described. But a piece of the backstory there is that as that deal was being brokered, if you will, or mediated, the person in the middle doing the mediation was a gentleman by the name of Kurt Campbell. And what happened was that at the time, the Philippine ambassador to Washington was a man named Jose Quisha. And Ambassador Quisha went to Kurt Campbell and said, look, we are your friend, we are your ally. If you tell us that we need to pull our ships out, we will do that as part of the deal. We will honor our part of the bargain. But I'm telling you, sir, that when we pull our ships out, the Chinese are not going to leave. They're going to stay. This boneheaded deal caused seething anger in the Philippines. And this is a piece of what I call the poorly thought out effort that began to in later years start to push in the Duterte administration the Philippines away from the U.S. and you saw President Duterte take a step towards China, and we as a country with some boneheaded foreign policy moves contributed to that. Now there were some others that followed after Scarborough Shoal, but it is going to take a generation or two before the Filipinos get over that, because they feel that, we stabbed them in the back, and they lost some sovereign jurisdiction of their country over that. And that's why this second Thomas Shoal, the Philippines, they are not going to give up on this. They are going to keep resupplying that Sierra Madre, and then there will be a time when they have to do something about its physical deterioration, and that's going to be another challenge coming up.
You mentioned that Kurt Campbell was the one who brokered the deal that the Chinese violated, and the U.S. didn't push back properly. How has the U.S. responded to this latest incident? And are we as a country doing any better now?
Well, the answer to that is yes and yes. So as an example, you're getting some statements coming out of the U.S. Embassy in Manila, the ambassador there, condemning the conduct of China, which is a refreshing change. And the State Department and the Defense Department are issuing statements now. I mean, it's long overdue, but they're doing it. And I think perhaps the most interesting thing that in what's going on in terms of these resupply missions to a Union Shoal out there to the Sierra Madre is that U.S. Indopacom, which is about 3 miles from where I'm sitting right now, they are supplying a P-8 or other type of surveillance aircraft overhead. And you'll see reports of the American aircraft overhead. Well, this is really important, and it's coordinating with the joint military operation on the island of Palawan, which runs these resupply missions at what's called the Western Command. And so what's happening is that the United States, with these surveillance aircraft over top, are providing real-time communications and coverage of what's happening, and that's being transmitted back to the command and control centers at Westcom on Palawan and into Manila, so that the Philippine military can watch, and they have real tight communications with their teams as they're going out. And I think this is a big first step for the United States to be involved in this, because it with this type of real-time communications, it helps if there's any type of blow up or problem, that the Philippine military command back on Palawan can step in and issue orders or withdraw or something like that.
So there's a huge amount of military resources, both from the Philippines and the U.S., going to preserve the Sierra Madre on the second Thomas Shoal. Why does the Philippines and the U.S. care so much?
I can't speak for the United States, but I can tell you that the Philippines is, quite frankly, being very tired of being pushed around by China. And when shortly after President Marcos took office, he made several statements about the country is not giving up 1 square inch to China. And he's taken a very firm stand, which has been adopted by the Philippine military leadership as well as its Coast Guard. And so this is now translated into strong public opinion and support in the Philippines. And I think that if anybody thinks that the Philippines is going to back off of this thing just because it's a rusted old ship in a reef, I mean, it's become a matter of national pride now. They're not going to let China take any more territory from them. I mean, it's that simple.